Hi folks, it is time to do the new moon in Pisces video. The new moon occurs, in less than 48 hours at this point in time. And I'm going to use this video to not only do a new moon in Pisces video, but also give you an overview of whatever it is that is transpiring in this, in this current sort of what I'll call Pisces season, which takes us from the time that the sun entered Pisces on February the 19th all the way to April the 30th, when Mars is the last of these personal planets to leave Pisces and enter Aries. So February 19th, the sun entered Pisces. Between that time and April the 30th, the sun, Venus, Mercury, and Mars will transit Pisces. Mars will be the last planet to leave Pisces on April the 30th. And we're, of course, going to have the new moon on March the 10th, 1 a.m. my time, Pacific time, and whatever that means to all of you. So far, here are the things we know on a micro and a macro level. From a micro perspective, and this is a 3 or 4 sentence summary of the last video I did, which was looking ahead at this week that we're currently in, till about Sunday. From a micro perspective, the two major aspects that we were going to deal with this particular week were, and they're both, well, one happened earlier today and the other one is going to happen tomorrow. So they're both at the end of this week, and they both are a little bit violent, so to speak. They're both a little bit assertive. As I established in that weekly overview this week has this more yang quality, but we're also having to juggle. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're dealing with this at certain times today and tomorrow. We're also having to juggle being in the dark of the moon. So energy is going to be hard to come by sometimes. It's this thing between Mars giving us a certain amount of energy and vim and vigor and boom and whatever through the end of this week, but it's also balanced by the fact that the moon is getting darker and darker. So will not surprise me if, the most positive outcome of this is that somehow the energies balance themselves out and you can sort of sail through. It's going to be, if you find yourself being productive, and you can, I think it's going to be there's going to be a mellowness, which will be nice. Hopefully Mars and the aspects that it is creating and its sort of freedom from Venus's influence. Venus and Mars are separating after they've conjuncted on February the 21st, but also the moon being dark in a certain, they'll hopefully influence each other to keep a kind of a steady, relaxed stream of energy. If not, you might oscillate between getting things done and taking certain types of action, but also having moments and spells where you just feel like you need to relax, or also because the moon is going through Aquarius at present just for a few more hours, you may be processing and revisiting certain themes that came up with this last month, basically, of the new moon Aquarius month. The new month, in the way that I define a month, as being related to the lunar cycle. The Pisces month for me is going to start on March the 10th and will take us to the April 8th new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So March the 10th to April 8th, I'm sort of calling or terming this kind of Pisces month. So dual energies for the next 48, 72 hours, and two aspects. Specifically, earlier today, Mercury conjuncted Neptune in Pisces, and Mars tomorrow is going to square Uranus. Mars in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. And as I have mentioned to you, we are juggling the Aquarius and Pisces parts of the chart with regard to where it is that our attention is going. In the Aquarius part of our chart, actions needing to be taken, because we're talking about Mars, either the pursuit of goals or the setting of appropriate boundaries and dealing with a certain amount of conflict or competition in such a way that it allows us to follow a more authentic, path in the Taurus part of our chart, and in the Pisces part of the chart, of course, the fact that there have been crises brewing since 2014, 15, 16, Saturn's entry into Pisces since March 2023, trying to give us all a reality check, trying to stabilize this part of the chart, have us understand the consequences of our past actions leading to certain results to some extent, delivering some karmic results to some extent, but also giving us a sense of what it is that we need to do to stabilize this part of the chart. On a macro, slightly more macro level, the key events in both the Aquarius and Pisces parts of the charts that were of significance as we look back at February were the Venus-Mars conjunction on February the 21st and the Sun-Mercury-Saturn conjunction in Pisces on February the 28th. Venus and Mars conjuncted in Aquarius on February the 21st, and the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn conjuncted in Pisces on the 28th. With the Venus-Mars, and those of you who are hearing me saying this, have seen my other videos, are probably like, it's hard when you do videos because you are in the middle of a narrative. And part of the reason why I keep sometimes saying in my videos, well, I did a video on this 2 videos ago, and I did this, and check this out, check that out, is because I'm very conscious of the fact that I start a new video. It's not a standalone video. It's astrological aspects are sitting within a framework of a narrative that is unfolding, and you have to refer back to that narrative. So the first 7 or 8 minutes of this video are going to be a little bit of context setting for where we are at so that we can pick up this new moon in Pisces and the Pisces transits and aspects and move forward with it. The Mars-Venus conjunction opened the gates for a direction that we have been wanting to move in since perhaps July, August of last year, 2023, but we're somehow thwarted from being able to move forward. We may have felt really impulsive and really feeling like we're moving towards a certain goal or need to move towards a certain goal, and then finding that since September of last year till February of this year, there were reasons why we couldn't quite make that leap and go through that portal. Well, February 21st with the Venus-Mars conjunction, whatever was restricting us is no longer restricting us, but we're dealing with, of course, the reality now of how do we move from A to Z. I did a video called Moving from A to Z, more details there. And there's 2 components to this that we need to pay attention to. And it does apply to the new moon in Pisces video and the month insofar as some of these actions and activities start up in this time frame. We may still very much be wanting to move in the overall direction that we identified in the second half of last year, maybe between July and August of last year, 2023. But it could be that some of that we're questioning or looking at some of the specifics to really see what we want, the actual specifics around whatever it is that we want to be. And that's okay. It's okay to be, I think that given the astrology of this time frame, it's okay to be confused, and it's okay to feel like you're at a crossroads, but you don't quite entirely, you aren't entirely, you're still, I would imagine, clear about the direction that the compass is pointing in, and the compass is pointing to the North Node in Aries. Which house is occupied by Aries in your chart? What does that house stand for? Who are the people that sit there? The chart and spirit wants you to lean in that direction and experience growth and expansion there in a grounded manner. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're nothing if not grounded. Because in July, August, early September of last year, we may have been a lot more North Node friendly and ready to jump off the cliff and let things fall into place, which has its place. But it's important with the North Node to be clear about where the compass is, but also ensure that you're giving yourself an appropriately strong foundation, financially and otherwise, to make sure that your security needs are being met as you move in a direction that feels like a calling, that feels like the right next step, like the exciting, adventurous next step. In addition, another part of the compass that ideally is integrally linked to the Aries part of the chart is the start of a 12-13 year cycle that Jupiter is trying to create by May in the Taurus part of your chart. and the fact that with Uranus transiting Taurus, you're becoming more authentic and finding your own individual path and offering and who you are in the Taurus part of the chart. So that's where the compass is leading. The specifics, as I said again, the specifics that you may have thought were what you wanted in July, August of 2023, or the second half of 2023, may, based on what you know today and now, you may be, is that really it? Is that really what I want? Is that really, what do I know today? What does that inform me? But the final details and the final, we are, February 21st, the portal opened, and we are at, not even, but we will be by the 17th of March. We are actually at sort of we're looking at the start of the gateway of that portal. We're looking at it, going, We're also clear and faced with the inevitability that action is actually upon us, that given certain circumstances that exist for us now, actions do need to be taken and will need to be taken. And as a result of setting those actions in motion, there are going to be consequences. Other people will react to them. Other situations will produce results. We will very soon be interacting with, from March the 17th to April the 15th, the eclipses on March the 25th and April the 8th. And that means that as we start to take actions, whether we like it or not, we are going to start to get pulled into this portal. And during that month or so that I mentioned, we are going to be taking some actions, but the universe or spirit of God is also going to take the wheel, and certain doors will remain open, but certain doors will close. And based on whatever it is occurring during that time, you are going to get clearer about how you're getting from A to Z and what Z is going to need to look like for you. And it's going to be this co-creative thing. And I should be, even with the eclipses, it's not that multiple doors remain open necessarily. It's like banging your head, on 12 doors, and 11 of them, you can do what you want, will not open. And the one that's meant for you, your hand will not even touch the knob, and you will just get pulled into it. We know what this is like. But it does require us to show up and be ready to knock on those doors. That's what we can do based on the actions that we're taking. Now, the second momentous event in February was the Sun, Mercury, Saturn conjunction in Pisces. Now we get to the new moon in Pisces. And as we headed to the new moon in Pisces, and as we moved past the February 24th full moon in Virgo, February 24th, we had a full moon in Virgo that opposed the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn in Pisces, and trined, a little more loosely, Jupiter in Taurus. Remember, Jupiter in Taurus, ending a 12, 13-year cycle, starting a 12, 13-year cycle in Taurus. If you're on the right path, trying to spiral you up. If you're not quite on the right path, trying to give you the opening so it can get you on the right path. That full moon in Virgo, as the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn were conjuncting in Pisces and giving you a clear and real picture of what has been going on, at least part of it, and what is going on in the Pisces part of the chart that takes you back to sort of the crisis years of 2014, 15, 16, and the murkiness that has been going on since then. The Virgo full moon may have produced in you an independent reaction emotionally and intuitively with regard to where you stand emotionally and intuitively as you looked at the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn conjuncting and being in conversation with each other related to realities that have been long obscured related to the Pisces part of the chart. Now, if in the Pisces part of the chart, the house occupied by Pisces, what it stands for, you are pursuing a path, toying with, inspired to pursue a path that is spiritual, renunciatory, artistic, then that conversation is a little bit more different with the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn conjuncting. That conversation may have been much more around, let's start to put some plans together. Let's determine if we're really committed to what we're trying to achieve in the Pisces part of the chart, and let's get real about what we're going to build and what it's going to take. And with Saturn, it is about getting real. It is about being clear about what the consequences of actions are going to be. Saturn is not a fly by the seat of one's pants planet, and Saturn is a take effective, mature, wise actions and be effective. If you are right about something, but you are reactive and ineffective, Saturn will teach you that lesson. So with Saturn, as I always say, it's not about, you can either be right or you can be effective, especially when it comes to conflicts or when it comes to how you're handling certain. It's not a planet. It's not a rash planet, and it is very much a planet that is interested in showing you the results of your intentions and your actions. You can be right and effective and get from A to B to C to D in a relatively smooth and conflict-free manner, relatively, or you can be right and ineffective and splash about and make enemies and be reactive and get emotional about things and make unwise choices and be rash in some ways and then have to deal with the consequences of that. Because Saturn will show you the effect of whatever action you take. Saturn also gives you the opportunity to build something very stable by the time you're done with its transit. It will bring you face to face with behaviors and patterns that self-sabotage you, that you self-sabotage with. Procrastination, not believing enough with yourself, not managing deadlines, not delegating, whatever those are for you. Whatever those are for you. So for many of us, however, Neptune's influence in Pisces has meant a feeling of deception, theft, gaslighting, lying. Now, if Neptune is transiting your first, second, third houses, it could be you who has been doing this a little bit. You could have been a little bit cards close to the chest. You could be not sharing everything. You could be being a little bit manipulative. Or, as I said in my last video, you could even potentially be, you need to look at whether or not you've been gaslighting yourself in some ways, especially with Neptune going through the second. So if you are, excuse me, wow, windy outside. Those were blinds. And, oh, dear Lord. Sorry, excuse me. So it could even be with gaslighting ourselves. So if you have an Aquarius rising, for example, it's not entirely, even a Pisces rising, or a Capricorn rising, it could be that somewhere the person who's doing the, do you really think you can do this? And do you, is this what you believe? And that the person who is distancing you from your intuitively thinking about what is actually going on is you and not someone else. That's sort of the definition of gaslighting with regard to you feeling something is going on or knowing something is going on intuitively, and somebody else withholding that information, or especially making you doubt your own intelligence and intuition and powers, and making it seem like you are somehow being crazy or paranoid or delusional. So either we're doing it to ourselves, either somebody else is doing it to us, or you're doing it to others. And gaslighting is a very strong example of this. It could be deception, it could be theft, it could be lying, it could be minor lies, it could be thinking that you've got something in control and it could be very controlling behavior without fully understanding. As I said, you can be right and effective or right and ineffective. It could also be feeling like you need to play your cards very close to your chest, especially if you've got Pisces in your first, second, third house, for example. So I'll let you determine what that is. Saturn's entry into Pisces demands that the Pisces part of our chart, the house occupied by Pisces, and the crises brewing in the Pisces part of the chart since 2014, 15, 16, or any plans you may have in the Pisces part of the chart that are highly spiritual or renunciatory or kind of windy out there. I can feel blinds sort of going off in other parts of the apartment. Or if there's a decision to move in a more artistic or creative or renunciatory spiritual direction, Saturn basically wants us to get real about the Pisces part of the chart and take actions to clean things up, clear things up, sort things out, reach agreements, minimize the energy leak or leaks. Energy leaks could be caused because we are dreaming and thinking about moving in a certain direction and have not been able to make that concrete. Saturn will help us make that concrete while continuing to show us the effectiveness of our actions and the consequences of the actions that we take. Or if we're dealing with energy leaks that are more disturbing or negative, Saturn will show us the consequences. It will demand that we sort out, reach compromises, even if some of them are of a glass half empty, half full variety, even if it comes with a certain amount of disappointment, just to end the energy leaks that are pointing in that direction. Now, 21 minutes in. And the Virgo full moon on the 24th. The Virgo full moon on the 24th was absolutely, it is the full moon that corresponds to this Pisces new moon. So as we head to the Pisces new moon in a little over 24 hours time, 36 hours time, what has happened is that the Sun and Mercury have entered Pisces. We had the full moon in Virgo, where we were able to see the Sun, Mercury, and Pisces come together. Depending on where Aquarius and Pisces sit in our chart, those conjunctions with Pluto from the beginning of February to the middle of February. Mercury conjuncted Pluto in Aquarius on February the 5th, and then I think 14th and 17th it was Venus and Mars conjuncting Pluto. Mars and then Venus. And so somewhere those conjunctions with Pluto and the transformations that they heralded or created in the Aquarius part of the chart might be in conversation with the results of those in some ways, the consequences of that transformation being announced in the Pisces part of the chart. This will especially be true if you've got Aquarius and Pisces in your 9th and 10th houses, 7th and 8th houses, 1st and 2nd houses, 2nd and 3rd, consecutive houses often will have a relationship with each other. Some don't. So you're just going to have to gauge what is going on there and how that might apply to you. But I will stand by what I just said there. By the time we got to, so Sun, Mercury enter Pisces, we have the full moon in Virgo on the 24th, where we take stock of what this conjunction on the 28th of the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn is heading towards and going to be about. It gives us a sense of what it is that we are seeing with greater clarity what has been going on in the Pisces part of the chart. And we have this intuitive and emotional, individual, preservatory reaction to it. Part of it has to do with what is it that we have to do in order to ensure that we continue to support Jupiter's transit through Taurus and the correct direction in Taurus that it is trying to take us towards. Remember, what I've been saying about the Pisces part of the chart is that whatever actions need to be taken, either to move in a renunciatory or artistic direction, or to manage energy leaks around deception or crises going back to 2014, 15, 16, you need to do them, and the energy becomes heavier and more responsible, and it will demand more energy of you. You need to take care of it so that it does not interfere with and sabotage the directions that you actually are trying to and need to move in related to the Aries and Pisces part of your chart. Make sense? So As we go through that Virgo full moon, we see what is starting to become increasingly real in the Pisces part of the chart, but we also see what our reaction to that reality needs to be so that we can actually support Jupiter in Taurus. 28th, the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn conjunct. And some of the things we see, now this is where you have to also be careful that you're not gaslighting yourself. If you're dealing with crises in the Pisces part of your chart and have been dealing with them in 2014, 15, 16, if you're dealing with themes of deception or fogginess or things not being clear, and in the absence of being clear, there being that energy leak created in you around trying to figure out what's going on, but kind of like pinning jello to a wall, because just be clear about, don't continue to delude yourself. You don't have to remember what I have said all along. This is one of the most important. Now you can tell in terms of tone, we're getting to the gravitas part of the new moon in Pisces video. But it's an important part of the new moon in the Pisces video. Don't delude yourself with regard to what you have seen with clarity. But keep an eye on that overall compass that you're going to be going through, that portal that you're going to be going through the eclipses, through Mercury being retrograde between April 1st and 25th. Don't let yourself be thrown by it either. Remember which direction you are headed in, and remember what you The new moon in Pisces in and of itself is unaspected. Not only that, at around the time of the new moon in Pisces and shortly after that, there are no significant aspects, as far as I am concerned, that are encoded into the new moon in Pisces. Yeah. The day after the new moon in Pisces occurs, Venus enters Pisces. Great. But then, for another week or so, till March the 15th, we don't have any significant astrological aspects occurring. What I've said to you is, as we head into the next couple of days and the moon is dark, and next week as the moon starts to grow, it's not like there will not be stuff that we're doing. We are. Just take the time to enjoy a little bit of the calm before the storm, which will start up by March the 17th, and we're in the eclipse whirlpool. The new moon in Pisces, like the new moon in Aquarius, occurs right after a couple of significant aspects. The first one today was Mercury conjuncting Neptune in Pisces. The second one tomorrow is Mars squaring Uranus. Mars Aquarius, Uranus Taurus, and then the new moon in Pisces occurs. The more significant of these two, from a Pisces perspective, is Mercury conjuncting Neptune. The planets that are going to transit through, the personal planets that are going to transit through Pisces, will conjunct Saturn and conjunct Neptune. The Sun and Mercury have already conjuncted Saturn. Venus and Mars are the two remaining planets that will conjunct Saturn. Mercury conjuncted Neptune already. The Sun, Venus, and Mars will follow. Some people may say that this new moon is conjunct Neptune, but it's a little wide for me. But it's a fair statement because it's following on the heels of Mercury conjuncting Neptune. And as I said, both these aspects, Mars squaring Uranus and Mercury conjuncting Neptune, have a slight element of, especially the Mars, the Mars-Uranus square may talk to actions that you're taking or feeling you need to take, but also talks about attacks and competition and conflict, boundary setting. And the Mercury-Neptune conversation, just after Mercury has met up with the Sun and Saturn, what do you think Mercury and Neptune's conversation is going to be about? Imagine the two of them sitting down to a cup of tea. As you have headed to this Pisces new moon, there may be communications, transactions that feel reminiscent of Neptunian deceptive, foggy behaviors. But this time around in 2024, you are that much more awake and aware of what is actually going on. The biggest risk with the Mercury-Neptune conjunction, past 3 or 4 days heading to today, is that something may have occurred that has a communication and a transactional edge. Oh my goodness, sorry about that noise. Windy, it scared me, and I'm in such a sort of focused place. Whew. I've got the windows open just to kind of, it's been rainy here in Los Angeles, and it's a beautiful day actually, all said and done. So I've got the windows open to finally be able to air the apartment. Something may have been in the works, or there could be communications and transactions that have occurred over the past 3 or 4 days that make you go, here it is again. These things that feel not quite right to me. Is something going on here? And if it is not quite that, the one thing I'm inclined to say, definitely, if you've been dealing with these kinds of deceptive crises, 2014, 15, 16 energies in the Pisces part of your chart, that have been creating a sense of loss and loosening your ties to things. Remember, with Neptune and Pluto, they loosen ties to things that we may be attached to, but may not be good for us or right for us, may not be part of our path. Hi, I'm back. Sorry, this is going to be edited together for you. So I actually stopped the video. I don't know why I thought I would do a new moon in Pisces video in 30 minutes. I had a reading I needed to do, so I had to stop the video, go do the reading, close the windows, manage the currents of air that were going through the apartment. Not quite, but coming back to the Mercury-Neptune conjunction, that is the jumping off point for this Pisces new moon. As I was saying, over the last week or so, the past 5 days or so, there are likely to have been some communications, transactions, mercurial activities that are reminiscent to you of those things that have disturbed you previously. Now, remember, with Neptune, keep in mind that there's a positive connotation and a challenging connotation. If we're dealing with the heavy, gaslighty, deceptive energies, then that's one thing. If you're dealing with Neptune's influence as being a desired sense of spiritual goals or artistic goals in the Pisces part of the chart, the house occupied by Pisces, then the Mercury-Neptune conjunction may talk to putting some plans and some communications. It's more bringing plans and how you're going to translate those plans into action into the mental sphere. It doesn't have to be overtly writing things down and planning, as much as it's thinking things through. On the deceptive side, where we've talked about the crises from 14, 15, 16, and the idea that Neptune and Pluto loosen our connection to things that may not be right for us, but in Neptune's case, it's done and often in a way that there's a fogginess around the situation. And it could be that there's some activities, mercurial activities that occurred. By mercurial, of course, I mean communication, transactions, primarily, occurred in such a way as you have headed to this morning that made you wonder if something was going on again, or certain things that felt very familiar to past energies, or, and in a sense, have that same quality of, I can't tell if something's going on or not, or part of Neptune's thing is that things may not actually be what they seem, so our mind starts to try and build scenarios, and in that process ends up building scenarios that are somehow worse than what is happening, because understandably, if you don't know what's going on, you're trying to think about, is it this, or is it this, or is this the case, or how strange that this, or I don't, something not right, but what's going on? And in that process, we become a little bit paranoid too. So we enter this sort of foggy space of asking questions and trying to pin things down and being able to tell that everything isn't quite what it is, but as we ask those questions, have the feedback being given to us, then we're not, blah, all that kind of stuff. As I said, there's something about coming to it this time around that you are more considering that you've just come through a Sun, Saturn, Mercury conjunction and a Virgo full moon before them, that gave you a perspective on how to respond to, or what your take was on what this conjunction was revealing about what is actually real in the Pisces part of the chart, and how it is that you need to have a perspective on it in such a way that you can support Jupiter's transit through Taurus. The Mercury-Neptune transit may make you the unaspected Pisces new moon means that you have 28 days to execute towards a plan of stability in the Pisces part of the chart. Here, finally, I'm talking about the Pisces new moon. Finally. Part of the reason why I've given so much context in this video is that the Pisces new moon occurs this year at a very awkward time. We're heading right into the eclipses. The most grounding influence we have right now running is the fact that we have a Mercury cycle from Capricorn that is continuing till April the 11th, with April the 1st being a deadline, and I'll talk about that in a bit. We've still got the transits through Aquarius, and this past week's transits through Aquarius with Mars have a greater sense of urgency, and the stakes are higher. Then we've got the fact that we have the Mars-Venus conjunction and the gates are open, but we don't quite know how we're going to get to where we want to get to, but we know that nothing's restricting us, but what does it look like? What? And then we've got the Sun, Saturn, Mercury conjunction, the Virgo full moon, saying, hey, remember that Pisces part of the chart that Saturn entered in March 2023 that needs stability and clarity and responsible action and a desire to stop and manage all energy leaks by January 2026, when Saturn will take Neptune by the hand and march it out of Pisces and then conjunct with it in Aries. I think it's in February of 26, something like that. And here's a first get real step of it with that Virgo full moon and that Sun, Saturn, Mercury conjunction. As I've said, we've gone through this. The gates open in Aquarius to allow us to move forward, finding that Aries-Taurus direction on our chart. But at the same time, the Pisces part of the chart again says, here I am, and here's what else you've got to deal with and manage and button down and sort through so that it doesn't derail you. And guess what? It's a good thing, because you've been trying to get some clarity in the Pisces part of the chart and you haven't been able to so far. So then Mercury does the Mercury-Neptune conjunction this morning. Mars does its final square with Uranus tomorrow. We come into this Pisces new moon. more collected than we've probably ever been from a Pisces perspective, whether it is to execute constructive and exciting plans towards an artistic or spiritual path, or whether it is to contend with the fogginess and the crises in the Pisces part of the chart. This unaspected Pisces new moon opens up at least a 28-day window. And as you know, Mars continues to be in Pisces until the end of April. Until the end of April. The big news with this Pisces new moon is that the planet that is going to be this Pisces new moon is the planet that's going to be most effective and most an agent through Pisces during this month of Pisces, from the Pisces new moon on March the 10th to the Aries new moon solar eclipse on April the 8th, is Venus. The two aspects that we're expecting to be made through the Pisces transits, a conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, the planet that will make those conjunctions is Venus. Venus will conjunct Saturn on March the 21st. Venus will conjunct Neptune on April the 3rd. Sorry, you're probably like, well, Abhi, why are you pausing? There's one bit of information I want to get you, which is when does the Sun conjunct Neptune? Because that's the other aspect that's going to happen during this time. And I'll get you that information in a second. Sorry, thank you for your patience. It's one of those Abhi moments when he just kind of starts to call up information on his computer and go silent. So the Mars aspects to Saturn and Neptune happen after this new moon period is finished. When the personal planets parade through a certain portion of the chart, roughly at around the same time every year, the Sun, Mercury, Venus. There's, of course, a new moon while the Sun is transiting, typically one, rarely two, a certain part of the chart. Sometimes Mars is included in this if Mars is close to the Sun, which it currently is. Mars, for a few more months, I think till the first half of the year, we're going to consider as a personal planet that's part of this, and then Mars is going to separate from the pack. March 17th. So March 17th, the Sun conjuncts Neptune. March 21st, Venus conjuncts Saturn. April 3rd, Venus conjuncts Neptune. April 8th, the Aries month begins. But April 10th, Mars conjuncts Saturn, and that Mars-Saturn conjunction is encoded into that April 8th solar eclipse. That April 8th solar eclipse, so much of what we're doing and waiting for is dependent on, we're waiting for that eclipse. The only problem with that eclipse is that Mercury is retrograde during that time. And as I said, you may find that that it takes up to the Taurus new moon on May the 6th before we actually feel like, oh, the train is finally moving forward. But the actual process of boarding the train, the actual process of moving through the portal, is that April 6th new moon solar eclipse conjunct Chiron to the minute, not just the degree, to the minute, with the Mars Saturn conjunction, encoded into it. When the personal planets go through a particular part of the chart, it's the month of that sign. It's the new moon that enables you to start to take some action. So if so far we've had the Sun and Mercury come into Pisces, if we've had the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn have that conjunction, and the Virgo full moon occur, which is related to this new moon in Pisces in the opposite sign, and we've had Mercury and Neptune conjunct, all of this is setting you up so that once that new moon occurs on March the 10th, over the course of the next 4 weeks after that, you are able to consider what, hear me say this is the heart of this video. You're able to consider what actions you want to start taking, and indeed will start taking, to help manage and stabilize the Pisces part of your chart that has been unstable since 2014, 15, 16. With Venus coming through Pisces, Venus is exalted in Pisces, as you'll hear everybody say. And with Venus coming through Pisces, Venus coming through the Venus part of any personal planet transit is what we look forward to. She brings opportunity, she brings harmony, she brings financial opportunities, relationship opportunities, she brings blessings. She brings the gifts during the personal planet parade. But with the conjunctions to Saturn and the conjunctions to Neptune, it's a somber transit. And there's an awareness, especially financially, of what is at stake and what is potentially threatened. Now, if we are going with the positive Pisces transit scenario where you're pursuing something spiritual, artistic, Venus's transit in conjunction with Saturn and conjunction with Neptune can be enormously inspiring. The conjunction with Saturn could be tremendously grounding. How are you going to convert your artistic or spiritual plans related to the Pisces part of the chart into a solid foundation and reality? Responsible, steady, long-term, thought through, keeping security in mind, not throwing caution to it, coming up with a great plan, concrete goals. And the Venus-Neptune conjunction, which happens later on, of course, in this 4-week period, highly inspiring. Shortly before you have Venus conjuncting Saturn, of course, on the 17th of March, you're going to have the Sun conjuncting Neptune, which makes you even more aware as we get to that Sun-Neptune conjunction of artistic and spiritual perception. If we're going with the scenario of managing crises from 14, 15, 16, and there being themes of deception and gaslighting and lying and delusion and fogginess and loss, whether we're at the receiving end of it, whether we're creating some of it, whether we're doing it to ourselves, whatever that craziness is in the Pisces part of the chart, then the Sun-Neptune conjunction on the 17th picks up from this Mercury conjunction, seeks to shed some light. There may be a greater sense of knowing as we head to March the 17th of what the fogginess is. And what our perspective, what our wisest, highest self, what is that perspective? What are we willing to release and let go? What are we realizing is occurring? We are that much more informed and grounded and able to come up with a plan given the fact that Saturn is now present in Pisces and indeed has gone through this important conjunction on February the 28th. The fact that a few days after the Sun-Neptune conjunction, Venus conjunct Saturn in the more challenging crisis deceptive scenario is that you may have to watch your wallet, your finances, something that is owed or due to you, and your relationships. Because Saturn may say to that Venusian side, and also you know, the fact that this new moon in Pisces and this Pisces month is occurring right after the Mercury Neptune conjunction and after that get real thing means that we go into this Pisces new moon month alert, aware, steady, watchful, observant, ready to use Venus's influence to responsibly try to reach agreements and build bridges, but also alert and remain watchful to any instance where we feel like our pockets are being picked or our relationships are being compromised. If we go into this Pisces month informed about what our priorities and our stance is through that Virgo full moon on February the 24th about what has been going on in Pisces, and informed by what is real in the Pisces part of the chart, which we should not ignore or delude ourselves on or dilute, that occurred on February 28th, we get to start to execute and start to take action in the Pisces part of the chart in a way that will contribute to providing stability to this part of the chart this year, next year, and until January 2026. What we have to watch for is that this Mercury-Neptune conjunction that occurred today is not somehow setting us up for further loss. And if there's a loss or an awareness of loss that occurs with the Sun conjuncting Neptune and Venus conjuncting Saturn, and us going, oh, what just happened there? What do I need to know? What is Saturn trying to tell me and my Venusian self? And I'm going to expand on that in a second. And then Venus conjuncting Neptune. Where am I deluding myself and allowing things to happen? Then by the time Mars enters Pisces on March the 22nd, but more importantly, once that month of Pisces is over and Mars is left to pick up the pieces, Mars conjuncting Saturn on April the 10th, Mars conjuncting Neptune on April the 29th. In April, you might be in, don't even think about eyeing that piece of cheese that belongs to me. With Venus conjuncting Saturn during this new moon period, one more thing about the Pisces part of the chart. When planets go through the different houses at around the same time every year, not every set of transit carries as much weight or importance. The Capricorn transits have weight and importance and significant impact, and continue to, because the Mercury cycle in Capricorn that started on December the 22nd and goes till April the 11th means that till April the 11th, but especially till April the 1st, we are charged with, and this is the most grounding energy. If you are looking for stability and solutions and a platform on which future success can be built, do not ignore the Mercury cycle in Capricorn. You will be pushed to continue to take action related to the Capricorn part of the chart, to implement certain things there that are going to transactions, communication related things. Could have to do with social media, could have to do with technology, Mercury, sales, depending on where Capricorn sits in your chart, vehicles, short distance travel, communication with relatives, siblings. But more than that, it's something needing to be built in a mercurial way that is necessary and that will provide stability and growth and gain. The Aquarius transits were normal, cranked up a little bit because they were directly impacting Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. The Pisces transits are ramped up a little bit because of the conjunction with Saturn and because of what we're dealing with, but also because in the second half of this year, in September, we have the first of the North Node eclipses in Pisces. The Aries transits are like the Capricorn transits. They are on another level altogether. So far in the first half of the year, the two most important parts of the chart are the Capricorn part of the chart, believe it or not, and the Aries part of the chart. It's not that the Aquarius part of the chart is not important or the Pisces part of the chart are not important. They are. But the intensity and the Mercury retrogrades in these two parts of the chart have a lot to do with this. But the Aries part of the chart has an eclipse, conjunct Chiron. And by the time we get to the Aries eclipse, by the time we get past March the 22nd, the majority of the planets are going to be in Pisces, Aries, Taurus. There's no dependency at that point in time on other parts of the chart for forward, directional, fated, destiny-related movement. Stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart is a priority because encoded into the April 8th new moon eclipse is the Mars-Saturn conjunction. Getting real about taking action to prevent any leaks, getting real about taking action towards building your artistic or spiritual goals, getting on with it, drawing lines and boundaries where you need to, pursuing those goals, actively pursuing stability in the Pisces part of the chart. Even while it's the Aries new moon solar eclipse that's active for at least a couple of months after that eclipse. And then a couple of months after that eclipse, as you head into July, it's the Pisces lunar eclipse that takes over. We still have another Aries solar new moon eclipse in the first half of 2025. In the Pisces part of the chart, the actions that you're going to take through this new moon cycle, and even in April with Mars being present in Pisces, transiting Pisces, not only have an eye to starting to provide stability to the Pisces part of the chart, they also have an eye towards this mysterious leaning into the Pisces part of the chart that we're going to have to do once the North Node eclipses start to transition into Pisces in the second half of this year. Now, that could mean that the work related to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart becomes even more active. That could mean that another aspect, each house stands for different things, and there are different people who sit in each house as well. So the North Node eclipses in the second half of the year and in 2025 and 2026, I'm just seeing when do the Pisces Virgo eclipses, they take us all the way, the last of the Pisces eclipses, the lunar eclipse is in 2026, but we still have a lunar eclipse in Virgo in 2027. So the Pisces eclipses, Pisces Virgo eclipses that are starting up in the second half of 2024 take us into the early part of 2027. And we're going to be leaning into, and there's a relay that, you know, as early as 2020, the February 17th, 2026, we have an eclipse in Aquarius. So all of 2026, we're going to be splitting that time between the Virgo Pisces axis and the Aquarius Leo axis. But that could mean that we're leaning into the Pisces part of the chart for something different, other than stabilizing the chaos since 2014, 15, 16. Or they could be related. There becomes a need to pour into the Pisces part of the chart. I mean, 2014, 15, 16, Chiron, South Node eclipses. Since then, there has been really no peace in the Pisces part of the chart. Neptune there, now Saturn there. While Saturn's there, the eclipses come in. Early 2026, Saturn and Neptune leave. 2026 and into early 2027, we continue to have eclipses in the Pisces part of the chart. Enough already. It's nice to be at that point where we can actually put some energy into this part of the chart and not feel like we're at the mercy of forces that we don't understand and can't manage and can't control. So this particular new moon in Pisces on March the 10th, and the month that it starts till April the 8th, is a time when you formulate a plan and start to take action in this part of the chart, largely at this point in time, with an eye to providing stability. The stability, if it's a positive set of actions related to you pursuing something spiritual or artistic, could be around putting goals into practice and starting to move towards making something concrete, giving birth to something, having a structured plan. If it's managing a crisis that has a certain amount of fogginess to it, then this is the time when you start to approach things in two ways, because Saturn is involved. And Saturn says effective, wise, mature actions. And with Venus being the planet that is conjuncting Saturn and Neptune, and the Sun-Neptune conjunction happening before Venus makes those two conjunctions, you may at once work to try and build bridges and reach agreements, but also work to set boundaries where you feel you need to. What makes a successful relationship? Healthy boundaries. And part of healthy boundaries are not just about others and how they treat us and what we allow, but it's also about how we decide to engage with others in a wise and mature and responsive and non-reactive way. That way, not only are we doing to others as we would have them do unto us, but we are also setting a healthy boundary towards ourselves with regard to how much we're going to let these crises and this nebulousness continue to shake us. This Pisces new moon makes us strategic. If we feel that we're dealing with, as a result of this Mercury-Neptune conjunction today, and this Mars squaring Uranus aspect tomorrow, which may have a competitive or a conflict edge to it, if we're feeling that we are somehow under attack again, even if someone is just trying to do something to wrap things up that has been going on in a deceptive manner, we may decide, as this new moon occurs, and even if we feel that these Venus conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune are continuing to bleed us somehow, financially or relationship-wise, we may decide now to start to put certain things in place as a result of that Saturn conjunction and even the Venus-Saturn conjunction. And certainly, even though Mars conjuncts Saturn after the Pisces month is over and after the Aries eclipse, that, remember, Aries is ruled by Mars. The planet that is ruling that eclipse is conjunct Saturn in Pisces. That conjunction is very important in order to, it's what I've been saying all along, in order to move in the direction that we're excited about and the carrot at the end of the stick, or where it is that we want to go and what we're hoping these eclipses will help us do. both in a positive way with opportunities, but also sometimes in a challenging way, letting us know what it is that we need to release. Going from A to Z, referring back to that video I did a couple of videos ago, is not, even if it's a desired change, comes with work and activity and actions. It's overwhelming. So as that April eclipse starts to push us forward, understanding that Mercury is still retrograde and we still have epiphanies, decisions, things occurring as we head through past April 25th when Mercury goes direct. And once Mercury starts to gather a little bit more speed, that May 6th new moon in Taurus. So the Aries, understanding that April 8th to June 8th especially, that Mars-Saturn conjunction is going to be exercising its influence and is going to be saying, it is time to sort out the Pisces issues. But you've got to do it in a way. When you're dealing with energies that are expansive because you want to take your career or your work or some aspect of your life in a certain direction, spiritual or artistic, positive, constructive, exciting, or when you're dealing with energies that are potentially deceptive and loss-oriented and foggy and confusing and gaslighty, both those require a level head. Both of those require leadership. With this Pisces new moon, on the heels of the fact that the portal opened to help you get to wherever you want to get to on February the 21st, the February 24th full moon allowed you to have a perspective on whatever you were learning about what was real, having been foggy for a long time in the Pisces part of the chart. The Saturn-Sun conjunction with Mercury really making that pretty real. The only risk is that you're the one who's going to be deluding yourself. This new moon in Pisces gives you, and heading into eclipse season, gives you the opportunity to show up as a leader in your own life, doing two things: stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, going towards whatever it is that you want in the Aries and Taurus part of the chart, ensuring that the Pisces part of the chart and the crisis there does not block you from the Aries Taurus part of the chart. And that means that if in the Pisces part of the chart you are going to start thinking about and taking action related to preventing energy leaks there, it means that you're going to have to take responsibility for showing up in a way and taking actions that will be effective and will lead to success. That means that being reactive in an emotional way, even if you are right with Saturn's presence there, is not going to be the way. You are going to need to be prepared. You are going to need to be clear. You're going to need to do your homework. You're going to need to execute and be in communication when it is the right time and you're ready. And until then, if it means that you have to play your cards close to the chest as you research things, figure things out, then that is what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to watch what this Mercury-Neptune conjunction means as the Sun conjuncts Neptune and Venus conjuncts Saturn and Venus conjuncts Neptune during this new moon cycle. Is someone at it again? Is someone putting their hands into your relationship or financial piggy bank? Are you going to take steps to start to address that once and for all, even if you don't know? Hey, just want to check, just curious, just want to make sure there's an... What are those steps? Some of them may be, and with Venus doing this first, until April the 8th, you might find that you are in conciliatory fact-finding and let me see if I can build bridges mode. Once Mars comes in on the 22nd of March, and once you have that April 8th eclipse and Mars is getting ready to conjunct Saturn, you are going to be in action time. And again, when you're taking action with Mars, remember assertive, not aggressive. We want to be successful in the Pisces part of our chart. And success might mean knowing how to manage the energy leaks. If you're dealing with someone not quite themselves walking towards you, I may have given this example before, at 11:30 at night when you're walking down a street, how are you going to engage with them? And let's say they hurl an abuse at you, or they start yelling at you, or they come towards you. Hopefully, you will keep your wits about you and try to find a way to avoid getting close to them. You're going to need to keep your wits about you to start the process of stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And some aspect of that is going to mean, typically with Mars, we don't say this, but because of the type of issues we've been dealing with in the Pisces part of the chart, if they have to do with taking action to pursue goals related to spirituality or artistic endeavors, have at it. Enjoy the new moon cycle. Enjoy these transits. Go for it. Let the eclipses break through what they need to break through. You are finally at a place where you can take action. If you are managing something more challenging, this calls for leadership, because now you know and have seen things that you cannot have any doubts about. And that means in the Pisces part of the chart, there may be times that call for a compromise. You may decide or choose to let go of certain things as long as it means that the energy leak is no longer there. You're going to have to look at certain things as glass half full, glass half empty. It's similar to that. If you're negotiating with some, it's like figuring out how to manage a situation and parties who may not have your best interest at heart. And so knowing then whether you want to wrangle with them and get into some sort of a conflicty situation that's just going to go on and on and on and on and on. And if you're going to do it, then you've really got to be prepared with these energies to go all the way till January 2026. Or do you approach it in such a way that you draw the line where you need to in a mature, wise, responsive, prepared, leadership-oriented manner? And if that means that there's some sort of a handshake that involves letting go of certain things, as long as there's a certain kind of peace and harmony, and the energy leak is not there, and the crisis has been managed, then that might also be a very viable option. But the Pisces new moon cycle is this Pisces new moon cycle is your first opportunity to get off our butts and start to try and stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Remember that the sign of Pisces gathers more momentum and more importance in the second half of this year, as the first of the North Node eclipses occurs in Pisces and takes us to the beginning of 2027. Now, as I said, that could be related to managing the crises. Certainly, if you're following something artistic or spiritual, it'll talk directly to that. Or it could be something else related to the Pisces part of the chart that you're going to be leaning into. But leaning into it will be necessary and helpful, and we welcome it. We've been waiting for all those conjunction season, as I was calling it. Sun conjunct Pluto, but more importantly, Mercury conjunct Pluto, and then Venus and Mars conjuncting Pluto, and the conjunctions with Saturn that Mercury and the Sun have made, and Mercury conjunct Neptune. All that information, and the Venus-Mars conjunction, and the Virgo full moon have brought you to this point. The Pisces new moon cycle in and of itself, relatively benign, with Venus going through Pisces. Lovely. Mars is going to enter Pisces on March the 22nd. But Mars doesn't start to really throw his weight around until we head to that April 8th eclipse. The thing that starts to stir things up starting March the 17th is not the fact that we're in the Pisces new moon cycle, although it's going to be informing it strongly. It's going to be the fact that we're heading right into that Libra lunar eclipse on March the 24th, followed by the April 8th Aries eclipse, and those two are related to each other. But while the Aries part of the chart is going to start to take more and more prominence, be clear, please, that the Pisces part of the chart needs our shepherding, needs our management. And while the new moon cycle in and of itself in Pisces is starting something that takes us into 27, and so has a relatively benign, but do not underestimate the importance of keeping an eye on that Sun-Neptune conjunction, Venus-Saturn conjunction, Venus-Neptune conjunction, and getting behind Mars as it goes through what it needs to go through. Because stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart is a critical component of helping you get through and move forward in the Aries and Taurus part of the chart. Way too long a video, in my humble opinion. But given where we are at, and given the fact that changes that we have wanted to start to see and move towards are now imminent, give it another week, and you will start to take actions even in this week that will start to propel, we're gonna start moving. And for some of us, we're just going to enter this kind of whirlwind of change where it's just like, okay, well, I can't do this anymore. It can't be this. It's got to be this. What do I do? Where do I go? All that kind of stuff. What's next? How do I? Great. Now I finally have the opportunity to move in a direction I want, but I've got to deal with it. It'll accelerate that change. After March the 17th. So given where it is that this is occurring, and the fact that the Pisces part of the chart, if not managed effectively, can threaten to take up a lot of your energy and not allow you to focus sufficiently on where it is that you need to go, it's important to, after the new moon occurs, maybe within the first 48 to 72 hours, think about and come up with a plan or a strategy for what it is that you want to do based on everything you now know, which you did not know prior to February 2024. Based on everything that you now know, what is it that you feel that you need to do to stabilize? Some of it, as I said, will involve a certain amount of conciliatoriness. And some of it is going to involve, okay, then this is what I need to do and have in place. And be clear about what you need to keep to yourself, what you need to consult with regard. If you're dealing with fogginess over a health issue, consult with your doctors first. If there's something that emerges that you feel you need to be careful about sharing with extended family because you don't want the be strategic about your plans and how you're going to deal with fogginess related to health issues or a crisis that's been going on since 2014, 15, 16. I'm not saying keep things, I'm not saying keep things from important people and be irresponsible about that. I'm just saying be the leader in your own life. Consult with the people you feel you need to. Share as appropriate. And when you share responsibly and in a prepared way. And given the fact in April we're going to have Mars going through Pisces, be prepared that there's going to be both a pursuit of goals. In April, you are going to start to be in action around pursuing goals, taking action towards the direction that you want, being in communication about what it is that you want and whether compromises are possible or whether you can get what you want, and also drawing lines where you need to. And that conversation may look like, look, if we are going to be in relationship with each other moving forward, then this is absolutely essential. Because as you will understand, without this in place, it's going to be very, very difficult for there to be a relationship. That kind of, especially if you're dealing with relationship crises, if you're going through a divorce, if you're going through a separation with someone, if you're a Virgo rising and Pisces is your 7th house and you're dealing with matters related to a spouse, an ex, and you're seeking to stop the leak, the energy leak, the deceptiveness, the confusingness, the what is going on, then there may need to be some conversations around, this is what I need and this is what is non-negotiable to me. But I would try to do it with that kind of tone, where it's ready, it's prepared, you know what it is, you know how you need to go about it, you know what you need to put in place, you know what you need to do if you get a no. But you're doing it as a leader. Responsive, ready, not reactive, and no longer letting things throw you related to the Pisces part of the chart as they have since 14, 15, 16. If there are things that need to be corrected, if Pisces is in your 8th house and you're Leo rising, and you have issues to deal with regard to debts or taxes or monies owed to people, maybe it is appropriate to, again, in all these matters, financially, legally, medically, consult with the right professionals, health professionals, legal professionals, financial professionals, as appropriate, and take actions based on the advice you're getting from people who are qualified to give you that advice, as opposed to someone like me. All I can do is read you the astrological energy, but the action that you need to take needs to be informed and prepared. So if we take that example, it could mean that when you're ready to be in communication with people and have a plan, remember with Saturn, intention is 75% of the battle. Have the right intention behind sorting out whatever. If it's the positive scenario and you're moving in a spiritual or artistic, have the intention of doing it in a concrete and responsible and a foundation, but build a solid foundation with Saturn there, transiting through Pisces till the beginning of 2026. If you are sorting out crises and confusion, be clear about what your intention is. Make sure that it is clean, noble, clear. And by noble, I do not mean self-sacrificing. I just mean clear and having a clear intention that is fair and right and makes sense and is not damaging to you or damaging to anybody else. And act from there. If you found this video useful, go ahead and like, comment on it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the wiggly bell next to the subscribe button. There's a bell, and on top there's a wiggly bell, and you'll be notified when I do new videos. Information if you're interested in readings with me are in my email address is in the description box. You can email me there and I can give you the relevant information. Comment, like, gives videos more circulation. I am sorry about the length of this video. I don't want videos to be this long. It's kind of prohibitively long, so I will watch for that. There's a new moon in Pisces, so this is sort of kind of its own Piscean video, spilling out all over the place. I will be back in touch. We need to, at some point start to talk about that upcoming Mercury retrograde and the eclipses as well, and we will start to tackle those. Okay? Thank you. Take care.